At the time of this recording, I have a conventional day job where, for roughly 40 hours a week, I use some of my skills in an effort to benefit my employer in exchange for a salary with which to pay my bills. All very conventional. I've been thinking about the fact that I have a catchphrase at work, which has served me well over the years, and that's what I want to tell you about today. But I just now recalled for the first time in decades, my father had a catchphrase at one point at his day job as well. I remember seeing a plaque that had been given to him on some occasion with a blue metallic plate mounted on dark-stained wood, and I have no idea why they gave him this plaque, but it was engraved with his name and his catchphrase, and the words, "Presented in appreciation by the men of such and such company." And I remember even hearing that phrase from time to time at home, although I can't for the life of me recall why this particular phrase would warrant such commemoration. My father's catchphrase during that period of his life? What's the holdup? I wonder why they gave him a plaque for that. I'm going to have to ask him. Welcome to the INRIS Files, presenting thoughts on culture, history, and the human condition from a very specific Generation X point of view. Over the years, most of us end up leaning on catchphrases here and there, signature words that we use perhaps a bit more frequently than most folks around us. Of course, some are more distinctive than others. For decades, my paternal grandfather had a fascinating trademark, and I swear I'm not making this up. Every time he received a phone call, he'd answer the phone with, "It's a beautiful day." Not kidding. Keep in mind, I grew up in an era before cell phones and voicemail and even answering machines. This was a time when people both at home and at work actually answered their phones. Most people would answer with a quick hello, or their name, or the name of their office, or perhaps even something more formal like, "Thank you for calling the INRIS Files. This is INRIS. How may I help you?" But Grandpa, for decades, always answered with, "It's a beautiful day." My grandparents were not rich, not by a long shot. My grandfather was the breadwinner of the family and plied his trade as a carpenter and later as an educator. But they lived during a time when a single income could sustain a large family, and as the older kids moved out and the family finances could sustain it, my grandparents decided to buy a little cottage in a nearby sleepy lakeside town where they could spend their summers when the schools were closed. My grandfather asked his youngest son what color they should paint the cottage, and he said, "White with red polka dots." And so my grandfather painted their cottage white with red polka dots. On one side of the two-story house, each red circle contained the name of one of their children, their children's spouses, or their grandchildren, large enough to be readable from beyond the property line. On another side of the house, which had by far the largest amount of space to work with, he painted a large red polka dot with a white smiley face and another huge polka dot with that phrase of his, "It's a beautiful day." I asked him once why he always answered the phone with this phrase. He told me a story about how he had finally secured a position he very much wanted in the school district, and that after he got the news, he couldn't help but answer the phone with that phrase. And that phrase reinforced how good he felt, so he continued to do it. And what started as an impromptu expression of joy became a positively infectious habit. I gotta say, there are certainly worse phrases to be remembered for. Anyway, I'm hoping before too long to lay out a detailed roadmap for the best way to earn a fantastic income with relatively little effort. And as soon as I accomplish that, I'll happily show you how it's done. In the meantime, I work a day job. At the company where I currently work as a salaried employee, I had originally been hired as a contractor on a 1-month contract. Now, that didn't mean I was guaranteed 1 month's worth of work. It just meant that they had allocated enough of their budget to potentially pay me for up to 1 month of labor. If they decided to keep me past that, they would have to go through the allocation process again for another set period of time. However, they could much more easily just cut me after 1 day. My immediate lead and our manager jokingly referred to this as the Dread Pirate Roberts contract, a reference to the movie The Princess Bride, where the Dread Pirate Roberts had taken on a young apprentice to whom he would say at the end of every day something along the lines of, "Good night, Wesley. Good work. Sleep well. I'll most likely kill you in the morning." So yeah, good times. Anyway, not long after I'd started in that role, my lead and I were talking to our manager about the most ridiculous request that another team had made of us, and after a little bit of good-natured expressions of disbelief, our manager straightened up, put on her manager face, and said in her inimitable Alabama accent, so I'm not even going to try to imitate it, "Well, we certainly can't give them what they're asking for, but let's find out what they need, and then we can help them be successful." Now look, I'm a wry kind of guy. I'm often as cynical as they come, and I'm very skeptical by nature. I've learned to let corporate speak wash over me like water over a duck. But that phrase and the look that our good-natured manager had on her face really stuck with me. We weren't going to do what they were asking for, but we were going to find out what they needed so that we could help them be successful. Yeah, I knew it as soon as I heard it. There's magic in that idea, and I adopted that idea as a mantra. I realized that as long as I helped my team, my colleagues, my management, our customers, in whatever way you define customers, as long as I could find a way to help them be successful, I would have a place on the team. I didn't have to be a yes man. I didn't have to do every little thing I was tasked with. What would make me valuable was helping the people around me to be successful. And so that became my catchphrase at work. How can I help you be successful? I know it sounds a little hokey. It's a little corny, but it's an attitude that has helped me to always land well. My 1-month contract was extended by 3 months, then 6 months, then a year, then another year. By the time I was finally hired on as a full-time salaried employee, my 1-month contract had been extended to just shy of 11 years. I'll note that for a contractor to last that long at my company was almost unheard of. And by the time they finally converted me to a full-time regular employee, I didn't have to take the pay cut that contractors typically have to take in exchange for that illusion of job security that a salaried position brings. So yeah, I'm inclined to believe that this mantra and this attitude is a large part of why I managed to stay this long at my current company, over twice as long as I had stayed with any previous employer. And why I ask that question when I utter those words, I'm not being cynical in the slightest. Really, the best way I have found for me to be successful is to figure out how I can help you be successful. Do you have a catchphrase or a mantra that you use at work? Or what about in your home life? What effect has that had for you? Please share your stories in the comments section below, and please be kind when you engage in the conversation. Be sure to click like if you want to see more videos like this, and subscribe if you'd like to be alerted about them when I post. Thank you for checking out the INRIS Files, and we'll see you again next time.